Welcome back. WSBA Morning News with Gary Sutton. And we welcome in Lara Trump, who is an American television producer, a campaign advisor to President Donald Trump. She's married to the president's son, Eric Trump, who's been on our show a couple times before, with whom she has two children. She is the producer and host of Trump Productions' Real News Update and a former producer of Inside Editions. And we welcome Lara to the show this morning. Good morning, Lara. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well, and I am still at home like so many Americans. So when you hear my kids or dogs in the background, I'll just forewarn you.
Well, that's okay.
Happened today.
You won't be the first that has ever been done on one of our interviews, so it's not a problem at all. I want to talk to you right now. We just got done having a conversation, and obviously you're at home like so many of us right now, Lara, and people are, the longer we go into this, the more people start to look at the politics of it, as opposed to the policy. And we're seeing a lot of governors in the state of Pennsylvania. We're pretty well, locked down into red and yellow status. Is this political? Has it gotten political from your standpoint? Is it too early to tell? What's your perception of this? What's your thought about it?
Yeah, look, I think if you ask the average person out there, Americans are always happy to pitch in and do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
So at the beginning of this, on the onset, when people said, look, we got to stay home, we got to hunker down, we got to flatten the curve, people all across this country said, you know what, we're all in this together, let's do it. So we all did our part. We all stayed home. A lot of people stopped taking paychecks. A lot of people lost their jobs. They stayed home for the greater good, and now the curve has flattened. Now we see the incidence of coronavirus decrease significantly all across this country. We see the deaths going down. We see all the right things happening. So now people think, okay, it's time to get back up and running, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, depending on where you live, if you are in a state or a town or a city that is run by a Democrat governor or mayor, then a lot of times you're probably not ready to get back. I think a lot of people question why we did all the things that they had told us to do. We are on what seems to be the other side of this, yet a lot of these blue states specifically are saying we cannot open back up yet. And I wonder if they're waiting until November 4th, until the day after the election, to say, wait a minute, we finally feel like we got on the other side of this. Because Nancy Pelosi tried to put in her latest $3 trillion package only mail-in voting this November. And anybody that knows anything about how you vote in this country knows that that is ripe with voter fraud, and it would be a very easy way for them to help prop up Joe Biden for the 8 millionth time and try and get him across the finish line here to become our next president. So they're doing things that I think a lot of people look at and say, this isn't right. This has nothing to do with the coronavirus because we did everything you guys told us to do. So I think a lot of people would say, yes, this is politics at its worst in many cases. Yeah,
perception in lieu of truth. A lot of people are sitting at home now without work, and they're saying, okay, well, I got time to think about this. Wait a second, this doesn't look right. And it's kind of divided down into, and I think the idea of politics being in this is despicable at all, at its very face. But we have seen, before we went into this, a very polar political thing in this country. You've seen it for a number of years now. Your father-in-law got elected, and they have been trying to get him out during that entire time. Let's say we've had senators try to get him out. We've had representatives try to get him out. They couldn't do it. Courts tried to get him out. They couldn't do it. And the perception that some people have in some of the articles I'm reading is, well, maybe the governors can by shutting down the economy and keeping it shut. And that would be the way to get rid of them because of the economy was the one big thing the president had. No matter what happened, the economy continued to improve. And that's what some people are looking at right now, Lara.
Yeah, it's absolutely disgusting. You're right. The fact that at a time when Americans need our leaders the most to do what is right for people in this country and not what is politically advantageous, the fact that they would play with people's lives like this, I think is utterly disgusting. But I hope everybody out there has paid attention because you have a choice as you head to the voting booth, and we will head to voting booths on November 3rd. You pay attention and see who has been fighting for you every step of the way, who's been fighting for your rights every step of the way. It's been Donald Trump. It's been the Republicans. The Democrats are the ones who, instead of putting things in their relief packages, which is an oxymoron if I've ever heard one, that help the American people, it is just a wish list of very far-left radical ideas like the Green New Deal implemented and snuck into these packages that they're trying to put forward.
Right.
But to your point, the economy has been something that I don't think anyone as much as they hate Donald Trump, could fight against him on, because the economy that he was able to create in this country with his administration, with the way he helped small businesses, rolled back regulations, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, that actually put us in such a great place in this country. Now, obviously, we're in a different spot, but it's no different. It is about the economy. And I want people to think about, who would you rather have on the other side of coronavirus? Because we are coming out of this, and we will get on the other side of this. Whenever we need to get people back to work, when we need to get our economy back up and running, get the stock market back to the record highs, is it Donald Trump or is it Joe Biden, who doesn't even know whether he's running for Senate or president right now? He doesn't know what state he's in most of the time. Probably nobody told him he's actually in his own basement where he's been hiding out for the past couple of months. Donald Trump did it once. He can and he will do it again. We have never needed him more than we need him right now in this country. And I think when you see the political games that are being played especially strongly on the left, this is why we all have to come out on November 3rd and overwhelmingly vote for Donald Trump. And, by the way, take back the House from Nancy Pelosi, because all she's trying to do is appease the very far left base. The radicals like AOC would really make this country unrecognizable.
Lara, when you look at the situation right now, I mean, the president has been under attack for 4 years. And I've been critical of some of the things the president has said. I've generally been very much in favor of a lot of the policies that his administration has put out. But I was talking to a friend the other day. I was actually playing golf with him and keeping my social distance, by the way. And by the way, I think playing golf should be part of the main things you have to do when you get into the presidency. So that's how strong I am about it. Anyway, the guy said to me, he said, I'm disappointed with the president. I think he could have done a better job bringing people together during this time. I don't know that he's done a good job of that. And this guy is a very conservative guy who said this. And, I'm asking these two things. I know these are not softball questions, but I'm asking because you sound very honest, and I want to hear your point of view. The other part is, a lot of people say, I cringe when the president talks about some of this stuff, and he kind of goes off cuff and starts to go, and then later on it didn't really work out that way. What are your thoughts about that? I mean, you're his daughter-in-law, you're also an advisor, you're also obviously a supporter, and a lot of us are in favor of a lot of the policies, and yet at the same time, those two things right there, did he bring us together? Does he get too personal with people? And should he maybe just kind of, have you ever said to him, hey, Mr. President or Dad or whatever, just step back from this. Don't say anything about it right now. What are your thoughts about that?
I think what people forget about Donald Trump oftentimes is, listen, this man grew up in Queens. He grew up a fighter. He doesn't get enough credit, I think, for what he was able to build himself, the empire, the Trump empire that he was able to create as an entrepreneur, as a builder, politics.
Right.
This man has had to fight every single step of the way since day one of him running for president for every single thing he had. The media has been against him from that first day. They said it was a joke, a publicity stunt for The Apprentice when he came down the escalator to say he was running for president. They immediately began attacking him because he was different and he scared them. He was an establishment. And when he became the president, they have gone out of their way every step of the way to fight against him. We have seen now more than ever that the Russia collusion hoax was maybe the greatest hoax perpetrated not just on the presidency, but the American people in this country. When do we get our $30 million of taxpayer money back? When do we get our 2 years back for that? So when you think about he's had to fight that, the impeachment, the same day that he was stopping travel coming over from China to prevent people in this country from dying of the coronavirus, Nancy Pelosi was handing out her impeachment pens. So when you think about the way that he's had to fight every step of the way, I get that sometimes people see him getting maybe riled up and maybe they think that he's fighting too hard. He's fighting every single day to make sure that the right thing happens for the American people. He never needed this job to be our president.
Yeah.
He did it because he loves this country, and I think he really knew he was one of our last hopes to bring this country back. So when he would stand up there for 2+ hours at these press conferences and try to be as transparent as possible, try to give answers to every single reporter who was out there trying to give him gotcha questions and trip him up and get, whatever news making moment they could get out of it. And that's how they were approaching it. I think an incredible job with it. The way he's handled the coronavirus, I mean, I don't think that there's any expert out there that says he could have done more. Again, he stopped travel when Joe Biden called it xenophobic and fear-mongering, when all the folks on the left said he shouldn't be doing it. Nancy Pelosi tried to stop him from having that travel ban, if you remember.
Right.
So this president, every step of the way, even though it probably isn't politically advantageous, has been actually doing what you need to do as the president of the United States and fighting for the American people and looking out for us. So you know what? People that don't like the president, of course, are not going to like him anymore.
Right.
But this is the man he is, and we elected somebody that was different and refreshing.
And you made
like it is.
You made a great point. We're going to have to run there with that. This is the man he is, and so that everybody has their own personality when they come in, and that's something that we elect. Lara, thank you for the time this morning. Really appreciate it. Your two kids were so well behaved behind you there, and we wish you the very best. Thank you for taking the time with us today.
You got it.
Take care. Lara Trump with us here on WSBA Morning News.